Link's rashness nearly cost him his life as shadowy devils overwhelmed him. At the last moment, Link's allies salvaged a rescue from otherwise certain defeat. The Master Sword is a mighty weapon, but its true power can be used only by someone who understands the bonds of friendship. The Hyrulean army was rallying its strength, but Sia's forces still controlled much of their homeland. The only way to save Hyrule was to defeat Sia. The Hyrulean army headed to the Valley of Seers to force a decisive battle. But Sia did not sit idle, despite her overwhelming advantage. She found new ways to fortify her troops using her own life force. The cost to herself was irrelevant so long as she crushed her enemies. The final battle between the armies of light and darkness was about to unfold.
Hyrule Warriors walkthrough. This is going to be Sacred Beacon, I think. Can't remember the level name exactly, but hold on, I'm adjusting my microphone. Probably should have done that before I started recording. Anyway, this is going to be the final level with Sia, which means this is the last time you'll actually run into her. Even though Lana is a different version of Sia, and you still get to play as Lana throughout the rest of the game, but this is the first time you'll get to see Sia herself. So that being said, it is not the last level. There are 5 levels after this, so it's about 2/3 through the game, and it's a pretty good end. It's actually a somewhat tough level. There's a lot that's going to happen, there's a ton that's going to go on, and there's a pretty tough boss fight at the end that has killed me many times, especially on hero difficulty. But luckily this is just normal difficulty because honestly the only difference between difficulties is your level, and if you're too low of a level you're going to have a hard time, but if you grind and get it up then you'll have an easy time, so just remember that. Now, the entire south part of the map is not going to have any keep that you can take over, but it will have a lot of enemies, and I think 3 outposts. Now, it's not really in your best interest to take out these outposts, but it can be helpful, especially later. So if you want to spend the time actually wiping out the armies on the bottom side of the map, especially taking out the special enemies, then it would be worth it for later because you'd have less to worry about. But I don't know if I would really recommend it this early in the match, and I'm not really sure why I decided it was time for me to try and take it over, but I for some reason thought it would be better to. And you'll see the objective now is to catch the sealed sanctums, because you have to break the evil spell that's on Sia's secret door or something. And one of the keeps should get pretty close to being taken over by your own army, but there's a pretty big patch of army beneath it. And that southern army will move in little by little once you take over that bottom right keep, but it shouldn't really cause too many problems. If you do take over some outposts, do your best to clear some of the enemies around it, just so they can live a little bit longer. And like I said before, if you are going to take over this whole south part completely, you'll need to kill almost every single enemy just so they don't group together and take over the outposts and then take over the southern part of the map again. So once you decide, okay, I probably should get going over there and all the Highland captains are in danger and everybody else was starting to get weak, make sure you watch your Wii U the game controller. If you're using the regular one, make sure you watch that so you can see the health bars of the different characters, and if they get too low, come over and save them. As you can see, that one captain was at about half health there, but luckily Zelda was not too damaged. And take out the special enemy. I've said this every video, take out the special enemy in the keep For some stupid reason, those bombs didn't kill that Dinophos. Dinophos. I don't know. That's a really weird word, but the bombs on the side of the keeps, they seem to be really strong against your army, but are really weak against theirs. And then, of course, when you take it over, this southern army will try to move in, and it's going to get taken back really quickly if you don't at least whittle them down a little bit. And as I've just said, at the very, very least, take out this Dynalphos and then wipe out whatever part of the army is just in reach, and that should be good. So Sia will raise the morale of pretty much every enemy, and that'll make them hit a little bit harder. As you can see, I'm missing 2.5 hearts there, which is usually not, which is a little bit more than what I usually have at this point in the level. And right there, that just took out 3/4 of a heart, so that attack probably would have taken out about half if he wasn't moraled up. Now, it looks like if you kill the special enemies around the army, then their morale drops, which makes them a lot easier for your own army. In this level, the special enemies consist of those Dynalphoses and also these big Poes, and the big Poes I would think would be a little bit more important to kill than the Dynalphoses just because they drop the lantern material that is used for all kinds of upgrades, but the Dynalphoses also drop good materials. Since this is a temporary account, I don't really focus on the materials as much as I would on my normal account, on my normal file, so don't do what I do and skip the materials half the time. I would pick them up as soon as you kill an enemy that drops them, because having more than enough is way better than not having enough. So I got to this keep just in time to save that guy, and I decided to take it over before I went over to that top left keep, which is where Lana is at this point. And this keep is going to be somewhat required later in the game. It'll be a really good block from keeping the enemy army away. So that's one thing you will want to consider again. And that keep directly south of me, that one that I caught earlier, or I think I had it earlier, but anyway, that keep to the south of me, that one will be at risk of getting taken over from those outposts to the south. So as I said earlier, you may want to figure out some time in this level where you feel that it's safe enough for you to clear out that southern side, and then you won't have to worry about the south side of the map coming to take over your home base in the middle of the match. And pretty soon here, your home base is going to get taken, is going to get switched from the one where Zelda is in right now to the middle one, which is the Fairy Fountain. So once you capture both of those sacred keeps, then the heroes will talk a little bit more, and I think I ran down to take out some more of the southern people. And the reason now is a good time to take out the south army is because Lana realizes, there's 3 sanctums and I didn't tell you guys where the 3rd one was, so let's go look for it. And that sanctum is in the very south there, that very south keep. That is the last sanctum, and it's going to take her a little while to find it, especially if there's an army in her way. So now is a pretty good time to take out what you can, try to take over any outposts that you lost, and then help her along if she needs it. She shouldn't need it though, because it's a pretty clear shot between her and the sanctum anyway. Once she gets to the sanctum, that will become a normal keep for the enemies, so you'll have to go in and take it over, which gives you a hold in the south. But if you leave these armies here, then that south keep will probably get taken back pretty quick, and that can cause problems, especially later in the match. And the very annoying thing about this part is that these armies here, the enemy skeletons, don't bunch up. They stay a few inches apart from each other, which makes them pretty hard to kill in one hit because you only wind up picking up 2 or 3 in your sword, and then when you scatter them by sending them flying off, then it's just even harder to take them out. But if you can get a couple of them in a good group, that should be able to make the solid red a little bit more patchy on the map, and that means you have less to worry about. There are so many enemies here, but I have no way to get them to group up together, so I just did what I could. And especially later in the game, the enemies take a few more hits to die, so I don't think that I kill very many in one combo like I used to. I know I kill some, you can see them turn black and wither away, but a lot of the times you'll see them fly off and then get right back up. So Lana will eventually find the final sanctum, and that's when you're going to want to head down there and take it over. I don't remember the defeat conditions for this match exactly, at least at this point in the match. I know what they are later because it tells you, and I think they involve if Lana dies and if the other heroes have to flee, then I think you lose because they are kind of required, but some of them, you may be able to lose some of them and not have a big effect on the match. One thing to know is that whenever a hero does flee, usually the enemy army will get a big morale boost just because they're like, yeah, we drove away one of their top people, let's get stronger. And it'll take a lot of killing and a lot of whittling down to lower the morale again. So once all the sanctums are captured, you'll just want to take out whatever is left of this army here. And I thought taking out these people I thought this was going to mean I'd be fine with not having to worry about the southern part of the map anymore, but I think they ended up taking over those outposts later, and that was... And then Sia goes drunk with power, and now is when you're gonna have to take her over completely. And this is the point when you can either go straight for her, it's the normal point of the match where you can go straight for her, or you can try to take over each and every keep. But I forgot something, there is one more thing we'll have to do, and that will be defeating Volga at the Fairy Fountain. And this is the last time you're gonna run into the Dragon Knight Volga, so you better darn well appreciate it. And the Great Fairy is going to open up, she's going to call all of you to come to her. And your next job is going to be to escort Zelda to the Great Fairy. And then after you defeat Volga, then it will be the showdown with Sia. So when you escort Zelda, make sure there are no patches of enemies immediately around her. That will usually keep her from moving, and if you can just kind of get rid of most of the enemies, then she'll start moving on her own, and you won't really have to worry about it. If you can go ahead of her a little bit and take out some enemies that will be stopping you, then that will help too. Just trying to make sure that nothing prevents Zelda from moving, because that'll just make this level take longer, and that's the last thing you want, because you are on a 60-minute time limit. And then at this point, all the other heroes will say, maybe we should go to the Fairy Fountain too, and leave these posts that we were barely holding to begin with. And a big battle is going to take place here in the center of the map. Now this has two ways. I'm gonna call it the two ways of difficulty. It'll be the easy way and the hard way. And the easy way is to correctly use the Fairy Fountain, while the hard way is to completely screw up using the Fairy Fountain and do everything on your own. And for the purpose of the walkthrough, I decided to do it the hard way. So you show up at the Fairy Fountain, and you can use the magic circle right away, but the hard way is to use it immediately. The easy way is to wait for the people to lure the enemy army right in front of the Fairy Fountain. So right now, as soon as you can use it, then I do, and that gets rid of all of the enemies that are currently in front of the Fairy Fountain. But what you're supposed to do for the easy way is to lure all of those flashing dots on the minimap in front of the Fairy Fountain and then blow them up, and that'll wipe out a ton of the army on the map. And it's really a lot better if you do it that way, and it's just kind of more efficient, but I thought, what the heck, I'm gonna make this level challenging, well, more challenging at least. So I used it right away like an idiot, and a big mission failed thing is gonna come up here after the little cutscene finishes. Now this level is also a really good way to get your instant KO meter up. I think there's a statistic somewhere that will tell you how many monsters you've killed at once, and this level is really good for that because if you can lure all of those enemies in front of the fairy fountain, you could probably get that number well over 300. So when you do use it immediately, all the other people are going to start saying, let's lure the reinforcements, leave them to us, we'll get them there. And then soon enough it's going to come up with a big mission failed thing that's like, hey, stupid, you weren't supposed to do that. And in the meantime, everybody else is just going to sit around and do nothing. And then Daryunya is probably going to complain that he's getting attacked, and you can go and save him if you want to. I don't think anything happens if he dies, and right there's the mission failed, but anyway, I don't think much happens if he loses, but it's still probably not a good idea to lose him, or especially this West Sanctum. If you can hold on to it, then that'll be in your best interests. If you notice in the south, those two outposts that I took earlier are actually back in control of the enemy, and those end up causing problems in a few minutes. And then especially when you mess up using the fairy fountain the way I did, Sia will go, oh, is that it? Oh, ha, ha. And then the east room will open. So now Volga is going to be unleashed, and he's going to be pretty strong. You're probably not going to be able to defeat him in this state. If you remember the last time you had to fight him on the Skyward Sword era missions, you needed the big, giant fish guy, Levias, to weaken down his power because Volga would just kill you in 2 hits if you didn't. And that's exactly the state that he is in right now. Now, you can try to fight him again, and it is possible. I have killed him in this state before, but you probably are going to want a lot of health potions, and I've only got 1. And you're going to want to make sure you know his attacks and you can read exactly what he's doing. And you really don't want to get caught in one of his combos like that, and then almost have it happen again. So for this state, I would especially wait for him to get to where his weakness meter shows up and then take that down, and it will show up every time after he does his dragon attack, but his dragon attack can be kind of difficult to dodge. So at this point, I only have 3 hearts left, and I'm like, okay, let's drink the potion. Great, I have exactly 4 hearts now. No, I have more than that, but it kind of feels like I only have 4 hearts left. And then I can't really do a whole lot to Volga, but during this whole time, they're kind of talking to him, and he's saying, okay, I'm not going to be controlled by darkness, so he pushes out the evil, and now he's back to normal. So that's that. He just has to be talked down, and then he will give you a fair fight, and by fair, he of course means he's just going to kind of dance while you demolish him. So once you take him out, you want to get prepared for going straight for Sia, and if you're worried that you won't be able to kill Sia quickly enough, then you will definitely want to go around and capture the rest of the map, or at the very least the south side of the map. That will be worth the time if you can keep it to where you have about 20 minutes to kill Sia. I would say at the most it should take you far less than 20 minutes to kill Sia, but if you're worried, then at least spend time taking over the rest of the map, but try not to take 40 mission minutes to take it over, because then you'll be 20 short of the 60-minute time limit. And most levels are like 15 to 20 minutes long anyway, but especially with this one, there's just so much going on, it could take a little bit longer. So all of the fortresses and everything, they're all going to open up, and then all of the dark forces are going to attack. So I took out a couple of the special enemies that were in my way because I knew they were going to cause a lot of problems if I just left them. And I, for some reason, missed that silver material that was right in front of me. Anyway, then I decided to head on up to Sia. It was about time to take her out. And of course, the whole time, Lana's going to be like, oh, Sia, don't do this, please, and everybody else is just kind of encouraging you to finish her off. Now, I tried to keep this western keep. I cleared it up a little bit because it's the only thing stopping the enemies from the bottom left side of the map from getting to my fairy fountain, and I came back down here to the southern keep, and I think, yeah, I took this over because it was half dead already, and this would have been a lot harder to do if I hadn't done this. So try to keep at least 2 keeps between the enemies and your fairy fountain. And if you're just about to kill Sia and you have people marching in on the fairy fountain, risk it and try to kill Sia. But if you keep dying because your fairy keeps dying, then when you respawn at the checkpoint, you just have to run on down and save it and clear up the area, and you'll be fine. Now, this big Poe was kind of being annoying, and luckily with the Master Sword, these big Poes don't seem to be very tough anymore. And especially when every other attack they do brings up their weakness meter, they are not too hard to take down. They can still be really annoying, but they're not as bad as Gibdos or Redeads. Now for these 2 keeps, if you manage to take over the rest of the map, including all the outposts, and you clear out most of the armies, if you take over these 2 keeps, then the enemies are going to have no point to spawn. But as soon as I was thinking, maybe I'll do this, well, they just took over that left keep, so then I just thought, maybe not. And I don't even think I took over this keep, because I was kind of getting annoyed at Sia. Maybe I did, but whatever you decide to do, just make sure you have enough room for your army, just so that the enemy army doesn't defeat yours. So I did actually take over that room, and I thought about going for that keep to the right, but it didn't really seem to be going anywhere, so I just went straight for Sia. It is kind of amazing the It is kind of amazing the leniency that Nintendo approves in cutscenes when they aren't the ones developing the game. Anyway, Sia is probably the hardest boss fight in the game, even harder than the final one. And at first, she may seem pretty easy. You just have to side roll her, hit her twice, side roll her, hit her twice, avoid all of her attacks, and especially try to stay out of her stupid little whipping attack that'll take out almost 3 of your hearts. She did that right at the beginning. My goodness, that thing's annoying. And when you do attack her, make sure you have some health available. There is a health jar here, and I'll end up getting that later. But the reason you're going to want a lot of health is because she spawns 4 of her. And no, this is not that kind of, okay, do I have to attack the right one? No, it's not that. And it's also not, okay, if I attack her, then the rest die. No, it's not that. It's 4 extra Sias. You have to fight her 4 times, basically. So when this does happen, you're just going to get pummeled and pummeled with attacks. And if you have your magic bar up, I would use that about now just to try to weaken them, because the whole idea here is to take out as many as you can, because one less Sia to deal with is a lot better than trying to attack them all at once. But that can be difficult because they're so darn annoying. And when you're just a little sliver of attacking this one, of getting rid of one, and the rest are just hitting you with all of their attacks, and then try to move in, and you have all these Dark Links attacking you out of nowhere, and then you're rolling around trying to figure out, well, what the heck do I do? So that red jar has a full heart in it. If you break that open and pick up the big heart, then you'll get all your health back. Just remember that, especially if you had to use a potion on Volga like I did. And then try to use some items. The hookshot can be very useful in stunning them if you can get one of the Sias to not be in her permanent rock steady attack. And most of the attacks she does, especially these big ones, the weakness meter comes up, but it can be pretty hard to hit that just because the other Sias will be attacking you as well. But if you do manage to get one of them, you can probably catch the other Sias in that one big giant attack, and you can usually do pretty good damage to all of them at once. But that Sia was being extremely annoying. I don't know why she was being so uncooperative, and then this one just kept whipping me with her stupid staff. That is so obnoxious. I really, really hate that attack. But once you hit him enough and you do enough damage, spend enough time, Sia will be dead. That'll be it for this level, and that's it for this video.
Hey! ha 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 ha